Right, we are starting with Part B of Section 10.2, and we have a quadratic that's given to us, and they want us to find the vertex, the axis of symmetry, x-intercepts, and y-intercepts. So this concept takes everything we learned before. So let's talk about a vertex. We know that the H is going to be the opposite of B over twice A. So let's look at that first. So we have in this equation of x squared minus 5x plus 6 as our function. And these are the coefficients. So I want the opposite of B. Well, B is negative, so it's going to be a 5 over 2 times 1. And that gives me a 5/2. All right. So my vertex for x is that, or 2.5. Both are good answers. All right. So my k is going to be f of that 2.5. So I'm going to have the function. I'm going to have the 2.5 squared minus 5 times 2.5 plus 6. All right. And I'm going to do everything on my calculator for right now. And yes, we're going to do the calculator easily. But for right now, remember we were in graphing, so I do a second mode or second quit, and I'm at the home screen. And I'm going to put 2.5 squared minus 5 times the 2.5 plus the 6. And I get a I'm going to do a math frac. I can have this as the negative 0.25. So I know that my vertex then is going to be the 2.5 and the negative 0.25 or a quarter, whichever way you want to do it. All right, so my vertex is 2.5 and a negative quarter. All right, now it wants the axis of symmetry. Well, that means that I have x equals h. So x equals the 2.5 is my vertex. I mean my axis of symmetry. And now I need my x and y intercepts. So we can do the y first because it's the easiest. So I want f of 0, x is 0. So I'm going to have 0 squared minus 5 times 0 and 6. So f of 0 is 6. My ordered pair is 0 and 6. Then I want my x-intercepts, a little bit more difficult, but not bad. 0 equals x squared minus 5x plus 6. Now, this is, for me, it's a factor. 6 is 2 times 3. And if that's the case, if I add them, I get the negative 5. So 0 equals x minus 3 and x minus 2 to get that negative 5 in there. So then I'm doing x minus 3 equals 0 for one of my intercepts, and x minus 2 equals 0. So x is 3 and x is 2. 3, 0, and 2, 0. Well, what if I made a math error and I want to use my calculator? So here we go. Okay, so let's do that. Put it over here. I'm going to go to my y equals. I'm going to leave the parent function in because we want to see what movement happened. I'm going to have my x, second row, second key, squared, minus the 5x, second row, second key, plus 6. And I'm going to graph it. And there we have it. All right. So we want to see the x-intercept. So I'm going to do a new key for you. Zoom, and I'm going to do box. And what I'm going to do with the box is, if I can make it move, I'm going to enter. Oops, sorry. Enter. Oops, sorry. I should have gone across. Sorry. It's hard on a simulator. If I was on my calculator, it'd be good. Oops. Okay. Because I want to see the x-intercepts so you can see them. Enter. Okay. And you can see that this is from 0. So this is 1, 2. That one was what we had. And this is 3. And the vertex. So we want to check our vertex. So we're going to go second calc value. And we said it was 2.5. And guess what? Oh, I have the wrong one. Here we go. We get the negative 25 hundredths. Very good. All right. So we can do it that way as well. All right. So they're going to ask you to choose the graph. And I decided I would get you to graph it. So we want 0 and 6. And then we want 3 and 2 and a quarter. So, and that would give us this guy. Oops, sorry. This guy right here. And that would be the graph that you would choose with those vertex and the axis of symmetry. Now, the axis of symmetry, oops, oh, I'm sorry about that. Let me get this done here. There you go. And the axis of symmetry is this guy right here. Not at that point, but at the half. The graph is too small for me. In the middle. There you go. Okay. Now we're going to do this one. It says graph the parabola and give the vertex, the axis of symmetry, and the intercepts. So here we go. Okay, my A is -2, so we know we have a flip. It's a reflection. 16 is B. And C equals -30. Now, this one on the calculator, we'd have to adjust. And so this one might be a little bit hard to do, but we'll see what we can do with it. All right. But we'll use your calculator and do some basic skills. So we want to do the vertex first. All right. So we want our H. Opposite of B over 2A. So that is a -15 over 2 times a -2. So that's going to be a -15 over -4. And, so I'm going to have a positive. That's going to be, it's a decimal, but I'm going to leave it at 15/4. And that's going to give me, I'm going to make a mixed number. 3 is 12 and 3/4. So it's 3.75. Okay. So now we want our K. And our K is F of that 3 7/75. And we're going to use our calculator for that. And we're going to use our home screen. So let's do that. Let me move everything around a little bit so I can get you to see everything. I'm going to do second quit to get in the home screen. And I'm going to put a -2 times a 3 7/75. And I is squared plus 16 times the, what did I have here? Wait a minute, did I do a math error? Did I put 15? Oh my gosh, that's 16. Oh my gosh. Sorry about that, guys. This is a whole number. I apologize. It's a 4. It's a 16, 4. And your instructor's eyes. What can I tell you? So this is a 4. It makes it a nicer number, doesn't it? I didn't think I picked one that would be nasty. I was just now looking at 16. All right. So that's a -2 times a 4 squared plus 16 times the 4 minus the 30. So we're going to do that on the home screen. Much easier. Sorry. I looked at that and I went, what? -2 times a 4 squared plus a 16 times the 4 minus the 30. And I get a 2. A 2. So my vertex is 4 positive and 2. All right. Okay. So that gave us that. My axis of symmetry is x equals 4. So those are the answers that you would put in your homework. The x-intercepts and the y-intercepts. Well, the y-intercept is f of 0. So I'm going to have a -2 times 0 squared, which is 0, plus 16 times 0, you get the gist, minus 30. So it's going to be 0 and -30. And I didn't even get to the -30 down there. All right. But we'll pretend we do. You'll give this as an answer for the zeros. All right. So I'm going to have 0 equals -2x squared plus 16x minus 30. Now remember, I do this for a living, so I'm going to first divide everything by a -2. That'll give me 0 equals x squared minus 8x plus 15. And that way I can factor x minus, and this is 3, and x minus 5. That gives me the 8 in the middle and a positive 15 at the end. X minus 3 equals 0, and x minus 5 equals 0. X is 3, x is 5. So what do I have? I have 3 and 0, and 5 and 0. And it makes sense that 4 is in the middle. All right, so I've got all of the things I need. I have my y-intercepts, my x-intercepts, my axis of symmetry, and my vertex. All right, and you can use your calculator to find these values. So here I go. I'm going to graph the vertex first. And that is 4 and 2. Then I'm going to graph the x-intercepts, 3 and 5. And what I'm going to do is, okay, can I see 30? No, but it will cross there at 30. And remember that my axis of symmetry is x equals 4. Okay. All right. Now, we're changing gears here to another concept, and that is a square root. All right. So what this has is it's asking base value. So it's asking for the base value of whatever number is in the radical, because it's called a radical. Now, we have to understand certain things about this concept. And in this concept, we cannot take the square root of a negative value. It is an I. But we're not talking about imaginary, we're talking about real numbers. So we understand that what x has to be greater than or equal to 0 as a domain cannot be negative within it, because we have y equals the square root of x. All right, well, this is the parent function, so let's look at a t-chart. And we need numbers that can be perfect squares. So in this case, we're going to start with 0. So if x is 0, then y is the square root of 0, which is 0. So if x is 4, okay, then we have y equals the square root of 4, then y is 2, because 2 squared is 4. Well, the next likely one is 9. So we're going to have the square root of 9, so y is 3. All right, well, that gives us an idea of what we have on perfect squares, because in my chart, I only went to those values. So let's graph those. 0, 0. At 4, it is 2. At 9, it is 3. Now, I didn't do 1 because that's kind of silly. The square root of 1 is 1. So, but I can plot it if you like. So, here I go. It's ever so slightly getting larger. Well, we want to see it on our calculator. So let's go to our y equals. We're going to clear all our quadratics, and we're going to go to second x squared, and you get the square root sign, and we put in the variable x. All right, now we're going to graph it, and there it is. And we can see that it is that. Now, if I did a zoom 6, I would see the same thing. So here we go. So I have that, it matches. And again, I could ask it any function. I could say second count value, and I could put in the 4, and it tells me it's a 2. I can put in the 9, and it tells me it's a 3. So there we go. All right. Now we get to some problems. And let me make this larger so you won't have any difficulty. And again, we can use the calculator. And we understand from the parabola that this is a shift vertically down 2. But what it includes here is what is happening there. Now remember, our first step is to set radicand, that's what's inside the square root, greater than or equal to 0. So that's our first step in solving what this looks like. And that's my job. I know we can just stick it in the calculator and probably get a very good answer. And I'm going to get to that. But I want you to know. So negative x plus 4 has to be greater than or equal to 0. I'm going to subtract 4. Negative x is greater than or equal to negative 4. Now, there's a rule. if multiply or divide by negative number, equality symbol, flips direction. All right. Now again, there's some information that you should be familiar with, but if not, don't worry about it. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. So I'm going to divide by negative 1. So x has to be less than or equal to 4. All right. So this means that in our process, okay, in our values of x and y, we start at 4 and we get 0 and negative 2. So let's look at that. I went too fast, didn't I? So if x is 4, that means minus 4 plus 4 minus 2. Well, this is the square root of 0 minus 2. The answer is y is negative 2. All right. So it has to be less than 4. So let's try 0. So if y equals negative 0 plus 4 minus 2, then we're going to have square root of 4 minus 2. 2 minus 2, we get 0. That's a good one. All right. So what's another one? Well, we'd want to keep it in the contingency of perfect squares, right? So we would probably do like a negative 8, right? So let's do, because it would be 4. If I did negative 4, it wouldn't be enough because it wouldn't give me a perfect square. So it would have to be a negative, what do I need? I need a 9. So a negative 5. All right. So we're going to do a negative 5. So y equals a square root of a minus a negative 5 plus 4 minus 2. Well, this is going to be 5 plus 4 minus 2. The square root of 9 minus 2, 3 minus 2 is 1. So now we have enough that we could graph it. So if I was graphing it, and we're going to see that in a minute. So I have 4, and I got a negative 2. So I'm saying it's right there. At 0, I got 0. At negative 5, I got 1. So it looks like it goes this way. All right. So we said we're going to use a calculator, which we are. So here we go. Again, it's knowledge and knowledge rules. So I have that one. Now I'm going to enter this one. Second square root. Now I need to put a negative x plus 4. And I have to do a side arrow to make sure that the negative 2, the minus 2, is by itself outside of the radical. I'm going to graph it. And there it is. That's exactly what we have. And we would match it to what we have here. And it's not this one. It's not this one. It's not that one. It is that one. All right. Now, here's one for thought. In this one, it says, given that the function is f of x. Now, we know we have a piecewise. And now we're getting into reading what they want us to do. Well, piecewise, we have all of these conditions. F of x, y equals some f of x. And they've drawn it for us. And they want us to indicate the opposite for all the y values. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to list the given points for f of x. All right, so let's look at them. I have a -3 and a -4. I have a -1 and a 3. And I have a 2 and a 0. Now, what are we changing? Changing the y value to the opposite sign. All right, so if this is f of x, then what we want is opposite of f of x for the y value. So we'd still have a -3, but we have a what? +4. We'd still have a -1, but a -3. A 2 and a 0 does not change because 0 cannot be negative. It's just 0. So what would happen? Okay, now think about it. So on this one, I'm going to graph what I think. 3 and +4. And that would be right about here. So we would have this guy. And then I'd have -1 and -3. So -1, -3. So now I'd have this guy go here. And then I would have this guy here. From this guy, -2 to 0. All right. So I would have that. So as we look at this guy, all right, because we just did all of the changes, then I would see which graph looks like that. And it would be this guy right here. All right, because this is 3 and 4, -1 and -3, and 2 and 0. And that's how you do it. Okay. So here we are at example 6. And I have reached 27 minutes, and I know that's a lot to absorb. So I'm going to stop right there, and we'll go on in just a minute.